welcome to the Nasboys podcast. Now, did you know that NASCAR's track record at Kansas Speedway hasn't been broken in almost 10 years? Now, we doubt that the next gen car will break this record, but we shall see. Kevin Harvick currently holds the fastest lap of 27.304 seconds set in 2014. The credit for this fact goes to motorracingsports.com. So, anyways, guys, welcome to the Nasboys podcast. I'm your host, Mike, aka Mike Fob Fan 101, with my good friend and co-host, Christian, aka Savage NASCAR.
What it do, Nasboys crew? We got a loaded show today and a lot of different topics. And as we saw on Sunday, the Monster Mile struck again.
Yep. And just real quick, get down to talking about this weekend's races at the Monster Mile. Like you said, you summed it up perfectly. It struck again. The race got delayed to Monday, which is very unfortunate because usually we record our episodes on Sunday. So that was very difficult for scheduling. So Christian, thank you for stepping up and joining me today on this cloudy afternoon.
Well, it's quite the opposite down here today. It's been raining all last week throughout the East Coast. Even in Florida, there was hail. But yeah, this week it's all sunny, all good weather. So I'd love to see it. It's starting to get towards the summertime. The weather is getting hotter. But I guess we'll start the show today with the biggest topic, which is the Cup Series race and everything that transpired in that. So, Mike, where do we even begin, to be honest? I mean, early on in the race, we saw how strong JGR was. Truex Jr., Hamlin, Gibbs. They were really fast on Sunday. And it kind of surprised me a little bit because I thought that Hendrick, considered their dominance at the track throughout the years, would have more cars up towards the front. I mean, we did see Larson, but we all know what happened there. We'll get into that. And William Byron was up front for a good bit. Josh Berry did pretty well stepping up for Alex Bowman in the 48. But I guess to start off, like early in the race, we saw some incidents. We saw Daniel Suarez wreck. And obviously, we saw your boy Joe Logano wreck, which was later on in the race with like 17 laps to go. But multiple cars just having issues throughout this event. But the biggest news and the biggest topic was the incident that happened early in the race with Ross Chastain, Brendan Poole, and Kyle Larson. If you haven't seen that, here it is. So, Mike, what's your thoughts on this? Because I have a lot to say about it.
I felt like that Chastain was being a little bit too aggressive, but I could as well give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know how long he was stuck behind Poole. I felt it was a little unnecessary to kind of move him out of the way because it looked like, at least from my angle, I could be completely wrong, but from my angle, it looked like he was trying to let the three go. And I don't know if Poole had slowed down or what. I've been trying to watch onboard videos. It looked like he slowed down a little bit. And Chastain didn't mean to get into the bumper and wreck him, but he did. I give him props for at least apologizing, and you could hear it on the radio communication, which you could see here. Saying that he didn't mean to get into Poole. So I give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit, but at the time I was really thinking that he bumped Poole out of the way just because he wasn't moving for him, even though he's letting the three go. But a very unfortunate incident for Larson, who was just an innocent bystander. And I thought he would have gotten a top 5 car, maybe even won the race. He was looking really strong.
And Brendan Poole was pretty frustrated about the incident. I mean, if you see the interview before even he got interviewed by Fox, the interview he had on Twitter, he was like, go figure, it happened again. Chastain is not making any friends, and it hasn't been for a while. And I hope that changes, but his image is just going downhill. And you could tell even his spotter was frustrated by the incident. Well, I'll say this. So I talked to my friend Bryson Davis and Will Concrete yesterday about it. And Will says that obviously with the cars at Dover, if you let out the gas, you're going to get steamrolled. And we don't know if Brendan Poole let out the gas. I mean, there is onboard footage. He was clearly slower than the leaders, and he was blocking the way. He was blocking the primary lane, which was the inside the middle groove. Chastain was high. He tried to get a little bit lower, but I don't think he meant to do it on purpose. But at the same time, black car is in the way at the end of the day. Um, we've seen other drivers move lappers out of the way before and went over. Once you spin to the inside, you're going to come right back up the track. And it's a steep banking, but that doesn't make a difference. Honestly, these cars will fly up the track, and we've seen that on many different occasions. And Larson, just as you said, innocent bystander, and I'm sure he was upset about that as well. But um, we'll get into like people's thoughts about it as we put on the poll on our story about what y'all's thoughts are on the incident. But moving on throughout the race, I honestly thought Chastain was going to probably win about halfway through the race. I know Byron led the most laps with 193. I picked Chase Elliott to win because he won last year. When I picked him to win last year, he won, but not this year. But we saw Byron, he was up front. He ended up struggling towards the end. It came really down to fuel and pit strategy. Truex Jr. didn't want to pit last. He wanted to be one of the first cars into pit road on the final stops because the last time he did that, he lost ground. Blaney also lost ground and it allowed Chastain to take the lead. But Truex ended up coming in first. He got out, and Chastain, I think Truex Jr. took 2 tires, if I'm correct, but he ended up getting so far out ahead of Chastain that we were like, okay, he's pretty much got in the bag unless something happens. And there was one final caution, but didn't really make much of a difference. We saw Ty Gibbs was in the top 5 until that final caution. He ended up falling down to 13th. One driver I want to mention real quick that kind of surprised me was Tyler Reddick because he was so far back at one point. Same thing with Truex; they were just pretty far back. I was surprised he was able to race his way into the top 10. Keselowski, Chris Buescher, RFK Racing was strong. Is there any drivers or anything you would like to add about the finish and drivers that caught your eye?
Yes, Chris Buescher. He started 5th in the race and he ended
Yeah.
up finishing 9th. He was running around the top 10 pretty much all day. I figured he would do solid, so I put him on my fantasy team. So I'm really happy with that result. Keselowski's kind of going back to his old ways as well. He finished 8th. It's ironic they
Mhm.
actually started right in front of each other.
Yeah.
Um, but the race was all right, I'd say. It's Dover. What do you expect? It's not the best track.
I don't mind it.
See, on one hand, I was a little disappointed that the race got moved because I wanted to record the show, obviously. And I didn't know when we were going to record it, like I said at the front. But I was also glad because I haven't really been able to watch too many races. And I thought that, it was cool to be able to come home and watch the race. But it's just I don't really know what to say. I mean, Byron was the dominant car for the first half. It looked like I know he led about, what, 140, 150 laps?
Well, Byron led the most laps with
Right. Now I'm just trying to figure out how much he led exactly because I remember him leading at least 130.
let's see here. I don't have it on my notes. I do know that Kyle Busch, he started on the pole and he had that speed penalty that really cost him. Kyle Busch never recovered from that. He was on the pole. That's just one driver I want to mention. But yeah,
Yeah, Kyle
I
Busch.
can't find how many laps Larson led at the moment, but he did lead some.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Busch, I felt like he had a good car at the start. I don't know what happened. He had a bit of a problem on pit road, and then he just couldn't get back up there. He was around the 20s the rest of the day. But yeah, I thought at first Byron was going to win, and then he kind of fell off toward the middle part of the second stage. Then Chastain started really coming into it, and then I thought he was going to win. But then I felt like Truex had the best car because he was able to stay in it within the
Yeah,
longer period. Whereas Chastain and Byron, who some people may have felt, or even Larson felt that they had the better cars, didn't. Truex's car stayed strong throughout the whole race. he started in the back and he moved up all the way up
Yeah.
throughout the race. So I felt that Truex deserved the win, and he broke his 54 race winless streak, which is very odd to say because I'm so used to Truex winning a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, good for him
I'm,
and good for his brother, like we'll talk about later. But overall, just the race wasn't that great.
I mean, to my here's my thoughts on Truex. See, remember I joked at the end of the season last year he should retire. I think he's not as competitive as he was, but I still think like competitive meaning like up in the top fives, top tens every race. I mean, he's still a very talented driver. Don't get me wrong. I picked him to win one race this year. Dover definitely was a track where I could have seen him win. I just didn't pick him, but I had him on fantasy lineup. His first win, in fact, was at Dover 16 years ago, and back in 2007. And it just tells you how long he's been in the sport. But I thought that Josh Berry did a pretty decent job filling in the 48 car. He's at this point he's got to go full time, right? I mean, he's just out here
Well,
like
actually, yeah, that was a point I wanted to mention. I heard a rumor that he might be announcing a Cup Series ride by the time of the 600, and it could potentially be the four. Which,
you
if
know,
that case, I don't know how I feel about that because I felt like they could have gone with Zane Smith since he was already in the Ford camp, and he's been a solid driver in the trucks. I'm sure he could do well in Xfinity.
mhm.
So why not try to move him up to Cup full time? But Josh Berry isn't a bad replacement, I don't think.
You know what I was thinking, right? I don't think this would ever happen, but imagine if Josh Berry, he has experience with Chevys. Imagine if, well, let's just say, for example, if Junior Motorsports does not have a cup team, let's just say Barry goes to the three car, which I very doubt will happen, but that would be interesting. I feel like that'd be a good spot for him if Zane Smith goes to the four, and Gillen should go back to the 38 for front row because he was doing really good for them. Now he's just running like every once in a while. I feel like he should have a full time ride as well. So at this point, it's kind of hard to like give. It's hard to find like get a ride when all of them are taken. And with Eric Almirola, if he retires at the end of this year, I could definitely see Barry going to the 10, maybe. I don't know. It's just going to be very interesting to see how things go with that. It's just very confusing. But honestly, I like Dover. It's one of my favorite tracks. It's very fast paced for a short track. It's a very stadium feel. I've never been there, but I'd love to get there. I think you said you've been there before.
I've been there
But
like I think 3 times, 3, 4 times. I can't remember the exact number.
yeah, so anyways, I thought the race was like a 6.5 out of 10, honestly.
Yeah, I gave it maybe a 4.
Mm.
I'll be a little mean, but yeah. Dover's a pretty interesting track, I'd say. Like I said, I've been there before. I need to go back to a race. I'm trying to go to a different track though. The only complaint that I really have with Dover is the bleachers, and I'm sure that might be at most tracks. Because sitting on those like old timey bleachers, that hurts. That hurts your back, hurts your butt. But overall, you get a decent view of the track. The facility is pretty nice. It's what you would expect from a NASCAR track. And the garage areas, I've been down there before. They're all really cool. It's really easy to navigate. You don't
Yeah,
really get lost. So, and even if you do get lost, it's not that big of a deal, especially if you're a hardcore fan, because you can just walk around and look at everything. But yeah, no, overall, it's a pretty good facility. I'm just not that big of a fan of the racing, and it might even be time to hang Dover up, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think they will unless they get the
no.
fairgrounds back.
It's owned by SMI, which is, with Bristol and Charlotte and them. They're not going to get rid of the track off the schedule, but
Well, unless
um
unless they bring like the fairgrounds back, that is.
you won the fantasy league this week. And I was fourth. I feel like if I didn't put Briscoe on my team, I could have been in the top two, but I had Briscoe, and guess what? He was all the way in the back. So he started up toward the front, just didn't perform well. But shout out to you for winning fantasy. But what did the people have to say about the race?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into this and I'm gonna tell you my fantasy team for this week, but nobody said great. 50 good, 30% said mess/okay, and 20% said bad. Yeah,
Hmm.
I could see why. Let's see. No thoughts. And thoughts on Chastain wrecking Pool. Florida NASCAR guy says Pool earned that. And Matt G. Pastor said normal Chastain.
Huh.
Driver of
Two
the day,
different views.
nobody. I will give it to Martin Truex Jr.
I agree.
Uh, so then I guess getting into my fantasy team for this week, I know I had Chastain because I picked him to win the race. I had Chase Elliott. First race, I used him all season. I had Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kevin Harvick, and unfortunately Larson.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean that happens.
yeah, I gotta make my lineup after this video, but I'm not gonna reveal it in case somebody tries to copy me because that's happened before.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I guess now we could go into the I'm just gonna go over the point standings for Cup real quick. Chastain's back on top of the point standings by 3 over Christopher Bell. Now this isn't the playoff standings, this is just standings in general. Harvick is 38 back in third. Truex Jr.'s moved up to fourth over the last, it's crazy. He's moved up a lot of spots over the last couple of weeks. Logano has fallen to 13th, Mike. Um, Hamlin's seventh. Ryan Blaney fifth, Tyler Reddick sixth, eighth is Kyle Busch, ninth Brad Keselowski, 10th Kyle Larson. One driver that's been falling down right now is Suarez. He's down to 17, and Bubba Wallace, despite his really good run, decent run at Dover, he is down to 21st. But I guess now we talk about Xfinity.
All I gotta say is first with Logano is that I'm at least he's in the playoffs, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you are right now. It just matters how you are in the playoffs. So we'll see how it goes. He's been having a very inconsistent few weeks with a lot of bad luck. So I hope he can turn it around. Kansas is a good track for him. But yes, Xfinity time.
Well, Ryan Truex Jr., the Truex's sweep the weekend. That's something I definitely did not see coming. Truex Jr., he's been in the Xfinity Series and different other divisions for many years. I remember when he first started. He hasn't really had much success throughout his career, but he's came close to win a couple times. Not a lot of people like him, but he ended up dominating the race. He led 124 of the 200 laps and ended up holding off Josh Berry for the win. Justin Allgaier finished third, but Junior Motorsports, they all their drivers were in the top 10 this week. You had Allgaier, Berry 2-3, then you had Brandon Jones eighth and Sam Mayer ninth. So not really surprised about that. Sheldon Creed was pretty dominant early in the race. He ended up leading 41 laps, but honestly, the Xfinity race wasn't that exciting. Parker Kilgerman, he ended up wrecking. But other than that, it just I don't really know what to say. I thought it was worse than the Cup race. What about you? I thought it was
I thought it was okay. Some parts of it at the beginning were really good. We saw Sheldon Creed got out to an early lead, but then he kind of fell off, similar to William Byron, and then Ryan Truex ended up dominating. Um, and then trying to think, Sheldon Creed actually ended up spinning out. He just got into a bump. It's over
huh.
here, but yeah, he just got into the little bit of the bump on the track, and then Allgaier and another car were around him, but. Parker Kligerman was actually upset with Corey Heim. He was making one of his first, if not his first, Xfinity start uh, for Sam Hunt in the 24.
Yeah.
And I I don't know what to say about that. I definitely put it on the screen, but I felt like that Corey Heim was definitely in the wrong, but it was more of a racing deal. They were both kind of running a similar line, and Heim should have given him a little more room. He should have let him down a little bit more instead of just stayed in the gas. So I can definitely
Yeah.
understand why Parker was upset by that. But congratulations to Ryan Truex. I remember him as well. A decade ago, even he was racing, I believe, with Joey Logano when he was with Gibbs. I think they were both with Gibbs actually. Now I'm thinking about it.
Hmm.
And I remember Truex is kind of that. like a journeyman driver that is a decent driver, but the problem is he just couldn't keep a team. Now he's finally on Joe Gibbs full time and is able to show his true talent. And he's been very good all season. So happy to see him get a win. And, the cool thing is there's a couple cool things to this. One, both Truex brothers actually won on Dover, which is considered both their home track.
Yeah,
And for two, I believe they both won on Dale Earnhardt's birthday for their first win ever in their respective series. So
that's pretty
really cool.
interesting.
That is really cool that they were both able to do that and that they were able to sweep the weekend.
What did the people have to say about the race?
Yeah, taking a look at what you guys had to say, it was actually really even. 25% said great, 25% said good, 25% said message okay,
That's cool.
25% said bad. That is really
Wow,
weird.
I haven't seen that before. I don't think.
Yeah, no thoughts, no driver of the day. I gotta give it to Ryan Truex.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much the obvious answer here.
Yeah.
And let's look at the Xfinity standings real quick. So Austin Hill's back on top of the Xfinity standings. As I mentioned, it's not the playoff standings. This is just the standings, driver standings without the playoffs. Austin Hill is up by 4 over John Hunter Nemechek. Hill finished 4th in the race on Saturday. Josh Berry is up to 4th. Chandler Smith is 3rd. Sammy Smith is up into the top 10 finally. Riley Herbst fell down to 8th. Cole Custer went up to 6th. Sheldon Creed went up to 7th. One driver that's moved up a little bit actually is Daniel Hemrick in the 11 car. He went up to 10th. Mayer fell down to 11th. But other than that, not much changes in the Xfinity Series standings. So I guess now we could do meme of the week. We got a couple of them.
Yeah.
So the first one that I have on here, it's this one. I don't know if we could show or not because it's kind of offensive, but it's kind of funny. It's by Bushlicker, and it says a woman trying to cross the street, and it says me in the 2006 Honda Civic, and it shows Chastain. These Chastain memes are crazy. There's just so many I've seen this weekend. There's another one by Racing Memes IG, basically of Bob Pockris on a bounce house, if I'm correct, and he just basically like just lands on a kid. And the caption says, "Yeah, Bob, going to need a lawyer. Anyone's going to take this case."
I saw that one. It was really odd. Yeah.
Then we got Dake NASCAR memes story. No incidents for 2 races. You're here, Chastain. It's basically the wheel. I don't know if you put on the screen or not, but it's like the cycle of Chastain. Chastain takes out the competition. Driver's angry at him. It was an accident. I need to be better. No incidents for 1, 2 races in the return cycle, which is pretty accurate to say. At least I'm a Chastain fan. And then Roadrunner 88243 with the Austin Dillon meme. Dillon, he's just been struggling on some of these short tracks. I mean, he'll do well on super speedways and occasionally on intermediates, but tracks like Dover, he just struggles on, and he wrecked on Monday. So that's the memes of the week.
All righty. Now I guess the next thing I want to talk about before we get into picks is why Alex Bowman wasn't racing. I'm sure y'all know why. He had a fractured vertebra, I think, because of a sprint car accident. If you haven't seen that, here it is. Which is really wild how these sprint cars kind of crash. And Hendrick has been having a decent season, but a really tough season for losing their drivers. Obviously, losing Chase Elliott, he had his leg injury, and now Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman was doing really well at the beginning of the season. Besides the penalties, he was in the actual points lead, and now this is really going to hurt him. I thought he was going to do pretty decently in the playoffs. I know he's going to come back for sure, and I'm sure he'll do fine when he's back, but that's definitely going to be a big hit to Hendrick, and I'm sure that he's going to be in a must-win position. Same with his teammate Chase Elliott. So prayers for Alex. I hope he gets better, but I hope we don't see more driver injuries like that, especially where they're outside of the sport like that.
Gotcha. Well, with sprint cars, the way with wrecks with sprint cars, I feel like one of the most common injuries, if not the most common one, is back injuries because the way if you land the wrong way, and those things. We saw this happen with a driver last year. I forgot his name, but it was in Texas. But they're no joke. The sprint cars are so fast, and a lot of drivers in NASCAR race other they're racing other divisions outside of NASCAR. Like there's some that race at Millbridge Speedway on Wednesday nights for the micro shows. Some of those drivers have included like Brandon Jones and Rajah Caruth, and and drivers are going to want to do other things outside of racing stock cars, and people are like, oh, they should like stop him from doing that. Well, Hendrick's not stopping from doing that. Chase Elliott's when he got injured earlier this year, was a snowmobile accident, and then Bowman on his birthday gets injured at during a high limit race. So I mean, hopefully he gets better soon, recovers well. He's a really nice guy. I met him at World Finals last year. But one thing I want to mention real quick, this I saw this on Facebook. It was by Kyle Armstrong, and I had to repost it. He said, listening to Denny Hamlin's podcast, which Hamlin just had with this podcast that actions instrumental. He said, listen to Denny Hamlin's podcast with him putting down cup drivers racing dirt races. Basically, Hamlin's like, oh, he's actually like putting them down for racing outside of NASCAR. And then Kyle says, wow, I don't know what it's like to be a multimillionaire living in a multi-million-dollar mansion on Lake Norman. I am of the mindset that he can't forget where he came from. Thank you to all the major league guys that still show up and run at the short tracks. So basically, a lot of people's opinions are, well, they should be able to race what they want. I could get where people are like, well, this could be affecting their NASCAR schedules and all that, as long as there's not a contract breach, really. But Hamlin and some other people are saying they shouldn't race. And then there's another side where people are like they should race in other series and do other events. Like Kyle Larson, no one really has a problem with Kyle Larson running with Lucas or World of Outlaws or with Flow Racing and High Limit. No one really has a problem with Larson. It just seems with some of the other Hendrick guys they do. I don't know.
I mean, I just have a problem with how these drivers race and they're getting hurt. I don't mind them racing, but I saw yesterday in the race, Rusty Wallace made a good point. He was talking about when he drove the two, that he wanted to start like I think it was a drag racing team with Roger Penske, and Penske shut it down because he had all the financial backing for Miller from
Yeah,
Miller, and he wanted Rusty to focus on the Cup Series, which is very understandable because sponsors put a lot of money into these guys, and for them to get hurt, yes, they're still going to get their money's worth with the backup driver. But it's like for Chase Elliott, for example, Chase Elliott is probably the most popular driver in NASCAR right now, and Napa is putting all of their focus on him. So for Chase Elliott to get hurt like that, that's not good. Even though they get the recognition still from Josh Berry, they still put it for Chase Elliott. So it's not good for sponsors. But I feel like that driver should have the freedom to be able to race whatever they want. But I also feel like they should just do it out of the off season and focus on the season in Cup because that's what's the most important.
gotcha. Well, I definitely agree with some of your points there. I guess now we'll get into our picks for this upcoming weekend. They're at Kansas, the Truck, and the Cup Series. Truck race, I've had a hard time making this pick. I've been wanting to go with Ben Rhodes because he hasn't won a race this year and he's been strong at intermediate tracks. And I've been thinking about Matt Crafton, breaking the winless drought. But I'm just going to go with a safe pick here and say Corey Heim.
I'm gonna say Zane Smith. I'm just gonna be generic and say Zane Smith.
And for the Cup race, obviously Kansas. I'm going to admit, Mike, I don't like Kansas. But for the Cup Series race at Kansas, this guy has won here multiple times, and he's your favorite driver, Joey Logano.
I'm going Bubba Wallace.
Interesting. I mean, he did. Didn't he win there last year?
Yes. Hold on. I'm gonna cut this real quick. All right, sorry about that Zoom moment. So anyways, to answer your question, yes, Bubba Wallace did win there last year in the fall race or the summer race, whatever race it was, second race of the year at Kansas in the 45 when he swapped numbers with Kurt. And I have a bit of a theory that they kept the same car. If they keep that same car, which I don't know if they are or not, I feel like 23XI will continue their streak. And if he doesn't win it, then I think Tyler Reddick will win it because I feel like 23 or I'm not 23. Well, actually, yes, 23. I don't know why I can't talk today. I feel like this is a really good track for 23XI. Tyler Reddick is good on these type of tracks, and Bubba has been shown to be decent on these type of tracks. So I would not be surprised if you see the 23 or the 45 in victory lane this week.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And Toyota is really strong there. I mean, with JGR and 23 side, they're pretty good at Kansas. Larson's done a pretty good job at Kansas also with Hendricks. So we'll see if Larson can run up there. But one driver that I say to look out for this race is a rookie. And this driver is Ty Gibbs. I think he has a chance. I know it's kind of strange, but I think he has a chance to win on Sunday.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs has been really strong throughout the last couple of races. He did really well at Talladega, and he was doing very good at Dover. But like you said, he fell off. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ty Gibbs does decent at this race.
You know what makes me feel old? The fact that 9 years ago, almost exactly 9 years ago, Kyle Busch wrecked Brad Keselowski in the nationwide race on the front stretch. I can't believe that was about 9 years ago. I feel old now. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Time
Well,
flies.
all right. I think that's going to close out this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you guys follow our socials, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.